Hi, everybody. Well, here's a kind of a different twist on a story. Normally, when you hear me talk about people who got their documentation wrong or didn't have something correct, they didn't have a visa to get on the cruise ship for the country they're visiting. They didn't have one of those electronic travel authorizations that are popping up now, like in Britain. Well, how about if you get all your documentation wrong and you're still denied getting on the cruise ship? So how about if you get all of your documentation right, you double check, and you're still denied getting on the cruise ship? So this happened to a mother and her 4 children as they were showing up at Port Canaveral for a Royal Caribbean cruise. And this was a highly anticipated cruise for the mother. She had been saving for quite a while to be able to do this with her family. Some of her children are special needs children, and she was excited to surprise them with this Royal Caribbean cruise. So much so that she completely kept it a secret. Even during the 8-hour drive to Port Canaveral, the children had no idea what they were doing until she all of a sudden started filming as they got closer to the cruise terminal and the cruise port to see the excitement on the kids' faces when they found out they were going on a Royal Caribbean cruise. Now, the mother knows that some of the children had some special needs. They knew that there's certain ID that you needed, and she contacted the cruise line and said that one of her, like for instance, her son, 16-year-old son, because of his challenges, etc., did not have any official government ID. Normally, anyone 16 years old and above would need a government issue ID plus their birth certificate. Well, because of some situations, she didn't have it, but she has records, documentation from physicians, etc., but she had a student ID. And she was told by Royal Caribbean when she contacted them that the student ID in this situation is perfectly fine. All the other children had to have the other documentation, which she did. And she shows up to the cruise terminal. They're all excited. They get out of their vehicle. They're all happy. They're going on their first cruise. And the person at the check-in says, "Oh, there's a problem with your son's ID. Your documentation. It's not acceptable. We cannot use the student ID." Now, of course, she's saying, wait, I contacted Royal Caribbean. They told me this was okay. I've gotten approval ahead of time. And she was still, the person at the counter said, no, no, no. And now as the children are crying and she's crying, they asked to speak to a supervisor. The supervisor comes over and they say, no, this isn't valid. This isn't a good ID neither. You can't get on the cruise. They continue arguing. But in the meantime, boarding is complete and the ship sets sail without them. Now you can imagine the devastation these children were feeling, the mother was feeling, when they know that they contacted, they asked the question, is this good enough? And they were told yes. One thing they didn't do is get it in writing. Didn't get an email sent to them that they could print out from Royal Caribbean saying that this was fine, and that probably might have solved some of these issues. But within a few hours, Royal Caribbean, after the arguments back and forth and the double checking and etc., realized their mistake. She had the proper documentation. She had exactly what she needed, and they were denied in error. Now, they could have flown to Mexico and gotten on the cruise later, missed part of the cruise, and etc. Instead, they chose to hang around in Florida for a few days, try and get rid of the disappointment for the children, spend a few days in the sunny Florida, and alleviate some of the disappointment. Now, Royal Caribbean, admitting their mistake, has offered the family 3 types of compensation. One is a 100% future cruise credit, but no money back, 100% future cruise credit, along with $700 of onboard credits. Onboard credits, not cash, onboard credits. But there would be no money returned. Option number 2, they would get a full refund that would cover, and cover some of the expenses. Not all of them, just some of the expenses she incurred during this trip, like hotel stay on the way there, hotel stay on the way back, some compensation for some food, things like that. Or they could get a full refund plus a 25% future cruise credit. Those were the three options. Now the family turned them all down. The family says, hey, they made the mistake. I did everything correctly. I double checked. I made sure the documentation was right. They turned me away. They should cover my cruise, plus all the money we ended up spending during the time that they should have been on that cruise. And that's what she's looking for. Any money she spent for the entire time she spent in Florida, plus the travel time there, travel time back, etc., is what she wants Royal Caribbean to pay. Now, one thing you also have to realize that all the people working in the cruise terminals aren't necessarily employees of Royal Caribbean. They are often people hired by an outside agency in certain areas. Now, I'm not sure if this is true in Port Canaveral right now, but it is true in a lot of other cruise terminals and cruise ports. So who's at fault? Royal Caribbean still has to answer to it. Even if they hire a third party, they're still responsible to make sure they're trained properly. And Royal Caribbean has admitted the mistake, and they said they have now issued new training to everybody in that terminal on the proper identifications so this doesn't happen again in the future. So good on them for doing that. And this family's misfortune may stop people in the future from having these exact same issues. So that's a good thing. However, what of those compensations would you say is fair? No money back and $700 in future cruise credit. $700 for a family of 5? That's not even an excursion in a lot of cases, right? How many excursions are under $100 a person these days? No. If you want to go swimming with the dolphins, that's about $150, $200 a person. 5, that's $1,000. So yeah, I don't know how excited about that offer I would have been. My money back and some compensation, I guess it would depend on how much that some compensation would be. If it's like $2,000 or $3,000, maybe I would take it. But if it's like $100, $400, again, is it worth all the money you spent, considering they're the ones who got it wrong? I don't know what the answer is. I know that turning it down might be the bad idea because you might not get another offer in the future. So what do you guys think? What would you take? You know you're in the right. You've done everything the way you're supposed to be doing it. You're turned away at the cruise, and these are the offers you're getting. Choose one. Let me know in the comments down below which one you would go. All I know is if I was there with 4 kids, they would be disappointed and I would be a wreck.